Good afternoon everybody, Graham once again from Unearthed, and we are having a afternoon off. The work is done, so I'm going to do a short video, well part one, of a guide to metal detecting, information, advice and guidance on setting out the first tentative steps of metal detecting, and I hope this helps. We're here with the quad, we've got the bag on the front, we look around at the back, we've got the detectors and equipment. What can possibly go wrong? I fed the sheep, so now it's time to get moving because they'll follow me thinking there's more food. But I hope this is of a help to people. You know, it's a starting off guide to metal detecting for people that really don't know the ropes, and I'm hoping that it'll be of use to most people that watch it. It's not about breaking the bank, it's about keeping within your budget, knowing the laws, knowing the do's and don'ts, knowing how to get permission, and don't fall into the trap that I did early doors. It's that sort of film, folks. So we're moving. Let's get down to the fields and start. I'll see you very soon. Right, everybody, we're back and start this film off. This is part one of two, and it's an introductory into metal detecting for the people that are just starting out. The pitfalls, the do's and the don'ts. Hopefully people will be able to get a little bit of information, advice and guidance off this film, which will make them make the right choices. So we're going to start off with equipment first, and then that's going to lead on to permission, because they're the two really important bridges to cross, I guess. You can have all the gear, you can spend a lot of money on detecting equipment, but if you haven't got the permission to detect, you're relying on rallies, organised digs or whatever, and you feel quite frustrated at the end of it. So we'll look at the equipment first very quickly, and then we'll move on to permissions. Equipment wise, it's very easy. Don't break the bank. That's my first thing I say to people. Don't go out there spending thousands of pounds on equipment that you may not use. The fundamentals are this: a decent modern detector. You can make this wireless, it's waterproof, it's a single frequency detector, the simplex. It packs down to a very short space, as you can see. You can carry this around with you all over the place, basically. It's really handy to know that you can collapse this way down to about 25-30 inches. It's a modern detector. It's made for people coming into the hobby. It's at a decent price point. So there's no real need for going out there and breaking the bank for the top end machines when you don't actually know if you're going to enjoy the hobby. So simplex is a good one, a really good choice for beginners. Also we've got the Vanquish. Again, it packs down into a very small space. Multi-frequency detector this, so you can use it on land, beaches, wet sand. Again, really good price point, perfect for the beginners, easy to use. You don't, like I said, I keep repeating it, you don't have to break the bank in detecting. These two machines that I've just shown you now are brilliant for starters. You'll find most things that other detectorists will find with these machines, and the real beauty is you know, they work really well. They've got high performance built into them. You know, these Vanquish are a multi-frequency machine built on the same platform, condensed technology, I guess, the same as the Equinox machines, multi-IQ. So, you know, they're operating at different frequencies at all the time as you're sweeping, which means it's going to be much more stable on looking onto targets, much more stable, and managing to handle the salt on the salt water, on the wet sands, low water detecting. You can use these. They're just a great machine. So there's two machines there, under 300 quid. Don't break the bank. That will be absolutely perfect for beginners coming into this hobby. Now there's other ones out there that you can choose. That's just two examples. Doesn't matter which one you choose. Look at the reviews, look at the ones that suit your budget, and go from there. Now the next crucial thing is, I think, is a decent digging tool. Now let me find my spade. A decent spade, right? This is a stainless spade, custom made. It's got a nice head on it. I can get through most tough roots and things with this spade. You need a decent digging tool. There's no point in turning up at your permission when you've got it with an old garden spade that you've had up the allotment for 25 years. Within the first hour the thing breaks. Get yourself a decent robust spade. There's plenty on the market. The spade market is vast. There's a lot of expensive ones, there's some not so expensive, and there's some really good value for money spades. Get yourself equipped with a decent digging spade. That's all you need. It doesn't have to be 90, 100 pound or whatever they can be. Just pick yourself one that's going to last. Look at the reviews again, there's lots out there. Now, this is going to be a contentious issue now because I'm going to start talking about pinpoint probes. Now, the pinpoint probe market is again, it's a vast market. There's lots of different pinpoint probes out there. Some good, some bad, some a little bit indifferent. Now, I always say to people this: you've got a pinpoint mode on your detector. I was detecting for 30 odd years and never even used, not once did I use a pinpoint probe. However, they do save a lot of time and effort. So if you've got permission for the very first time, and the farmer's a little bit sort of, a little bit touchy maybe, doesn't really know what to expect, you don't want to be going on his land and digging holes and holes all over the place to retrieve the targets, the coins and artifacts that lie there without a pinpoint probe. And the reason why is the pinpoint probes, here's my example, this is my choice. I've got two different types. I've got a tech point as well, which is very good. The reason is because these will save you a lot of digging. So you dig your hole, turn this on, you stick it into the hole where the target is. This will locate the target much more precisely for you, so there's less time you standing back up, digging more out of the hole, making more of a bit of a soil mess, if that makes sense. These things will take you directly to the target. It'll save a lot of time, effort and mess, so they'll keep the job tidy for you. So pick a decent pinpoint probe. Some are waterproof, some are weatherproof, some don't last very long, some are rather cheap. Just be careful of the cheap brands. That is one thing I'll say. Detector wise it's a little bit different, but the probe market is very temperamental with the cheap lower end ones. Now some people will say, well, I've got so and so, it cost me, well, I don't know, 30, 40 quid, it's lasted a lifetime. That's fantastic, but believe me, we get a lot of people having a lot of problems with pinpoint probes. Do your research, make sure you pick the right one that you like the look of, you like the features. And my advice again right at the end of this probe discussion is don't pick anything overcomplicated. People this day want something they can turn on and use straight away. They don't want to be using probes that are necessarily cram-packed with features that you can't get your head around. So that's one tip I will give about these little beauties. So that's the equipment wise. Also, and I think it is worth mentioning as well, is I always make sure I've got a decent bag. Now this one is made by Nocta. It doesn't matter who makes it, doesn't matter what type of bag it is, as long as you can get everything in this bag, then it's a lot easier for you to have all your equipment in one area rather than strewn all around the back seats, some in the boot, some in the back seats. Oh, hang on a minute, have I left them in the shed? In this bag, I'll show you this again, it's got multiple zipped pockets. I can get my detector in because my Equinox, which is my personal choice, can collapse down into this bag, so I can get that in. I can get a spare coil in, I can get me digging tool, I can get me headphones, I can get me probe, I can get me gloves, I can get just about anything I need to start a day's detecting in this bag. I can even get me lunch in there as well. I don't like the idea of having everything strewn all over the place and you're thinking, oh God, what have I forgot? You're driving down the road to your permission and you're thinking, what have I forgot? And sometimes it'll happen, you'll forget, your spade, your digging tool, your probe. Have it all in a bag. Get a decent bag. Lots of people sell bags all over the internet that will do the job. Just make sure it's big enough and robust enough to manage your gear. That's as simple as that. Now the next one is, if I can find them, unless I'm sat on them of course, yes I am, is gloves. Now gloves are an important part of detecting, of course. Lots of people don't use gloves. Now you've got to be careful for two reasons. Gloves will keep your hands nice and dry, they'll keep them clean and away from nasty stuff that can be in the soil, as we all know, but also it protects you. The gloves will protect you against sharp objects. Believe it or not, under this soil and other farms there's bits of glass, there's sharp objects, there's sharp stones, there's bits of flint. Any of them can cut you and give you an infection. So wearing a pair of gloves, a decent pair of detecting gloves, that'll keep out the wind, maybe keep out the showers as well, weatherproof, keep your hands warm. That's more than crucial, is keeping your hands warm, because as soon as your hands get cold, the rest of your body gets cold, and the next thing you're thinking about is going home. Get yourself a decent set of gloves. Doesn't matter what type they are. It can be the cheap and cheerful ones off the internet, or it can be a decent pair of detecting gloves that are made for the job. Just make sure you protect your hands. It's the most important thing I can say in health and safety wise and keeping yourself healthy and safe and away from anything nasty. Gloves are important. Remember this, gloves are mega important. The next one I'm going to talk about before we move on to permissions is fines pouches. Now, keeping your fines safe when you find them, he says dropping down, that's better, isn't it? It's quite a crucial part of detecting, because a lot of people don't think about that. They think, well, I'm going to make a couple of coin fines here, or hopefully I find an artifact or two. When they find it, what do they do with it? Now, for years and years, I used to use a fines pouch that wrapped around my waist. So I had two pockets. I put any trash in the front pocket, and I put any potentially desirable coins and artifacts in a little box at the rear of the pocket, which was fine. However, if you're on a busy field and there's lots of lead and bits of junk, that fines pouch round your waist will soon become a burden. And what happens is it starts sinking down and you're constantly pulling it up round your waist, and it can be quite annoying, it can be quite off-putting. So a few years ago I stumbled across something called the chest accessory holder. So I have, as you can see, two straps. I've got one here and one there, and if I can just gently stand up, you can see this is actually around my chest. So in here I can fit my pinpoint probe, as you can see. In here I can put my car keys in this pouch. I've got a rather large pocket here that I can put a little tin in there for my coins and other bits and pieces that I find. And right here, a really large pocket for all my junk. Now, I don't have to walk around, as you can see, I don't have to walk around with a fines pouch dragging me down all the time. I've got my hands free, I've got this around my waist, it's extremely comfortable. The good news is you don't know you've got it on. Now, we sell these, it's an unashamed plug because we sell lots of them anyway, so basically they sell themselves because they're that good. But this is just an idea of what I use. There's other ones out there probably cheaper than what we sell them for, but these are a really good quality one. The Viper make these, so they're a sort of a military grade product, if you will. They do them in different colours, and I think they're absolutely amazing. So you may want to go down the route of getting your fines pouch round your waist, and you might have used one for a number of years, and that's fine. But this is just a better alternative for people, I think. A much better alternative. So you've had a look at that. I don't know if I can stand up and just give you a bit of a view. You can see it going over my shoulders. I just think they're just a fantastic product, I really do. So we've had a look at accessories. I mean, we can talk about knee pads, we can talk about waterproof leggings and a decent jacket and a decent pair of boots. All that is pretty much fundamental. If you're a fisherman, you can match over your clothes from your fishing days. Decent set of boots that are going to keep your feet warm, decent leggings. You can even get military grade pants now with built-in knee pads, for God's sake, and they work really well because you're doing a lot of bending down and digging, so you need to protect those knees. And a decent waterproof jacket, now one that's going to keep you warm in the winter, and one that's going to have some sort of waterproof quality with it as well. I've seen a lot of people over the years buying the really cheap waterproofs that rip, and they don't last, probably don't even last a season, so it's false economy. Get yourself a decent jacket, decent pair of leggings, decent pair of boots, because you're the one that's going to be out in the fields winter, spring, summer, autumn, and you don't want to be suffering from cold or getting soaked through the skin, because it's just completely off-putting. It can completely ruin your day. So we're going to have a look at well, let me talk about one more thing just about equipment-wise, but we forgot about headphones. Now, headphones are really crucial. Now, the reason why headphones are crucial is because when you gain permission off your first farmer or landowner, then you want to be able to sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not make a noise and draw attention to yourself. So these detectors, he says, dropping down away from the wind, these detectors, both of them use headphones. So you've got wired headphones, or you can use wireless headphones. It doesn't matter which you use. Don't get over bothered about headphones being wireless or non-wireless. I used wired headphones for over 30 years and never had a problem, never had any lag. Wireless headphones are a bonus if you can afford them. But if you're not using headphones on a farm, and you're detecting around the farmhouse, for example, and the farmer's hearing you bleeping all over the place and drawing attention to yourself, it could be quite off-putting. And the other thing as well, if you don't use headphones, it drains the batteries down quicker, and also you're relying on the detector speaker only, so you could miss some of the deeper targets. So headphones are crucial. Again, pick a decent quality a pair. You don't want the cheap ones because the sound quality is poor. get a decent pair of headphones that match the detector, and it's happy days. Now is the important one. We're on to permissions. So one of the most crucial, if not the most crucial part of detecting, I think, is gaining permission. It's a difficult job. So when I started years and years ago, when I was a kid actually, when I started detecting, most of the farmers, especially here and on the outskirts of the Lake District, pretty much thought we were a little bit quirky. And yes, you can go on with a sort of a wry grin on the face, the famous last words, "You'll never find anything on here," and that sort of thing. And I think behind our backs they probably thought we were quite mad. They probably didn't even see or have never seen or heard or even looked at a detector, but it was quite easy to gain permission. Fast forward 20 years or more, 30 years even in some cases, the world's completely different. There's more detectorists out there. The farmers can sometimes get bogged down with people continuously asking for permission, but a lot of people fall into this trap. And this is the trap they fall into, and this is where people really do need to concentrate if they possibly can. And I hope it helps them gain permission. So, and I've fallen into this trap, folks, and this is why I'm saying it. Hopefully you won't fall into this, make some of the mistakes I've done over the years. But, everybody targets the large farms. The farms with the Roman road running through it, or a medieval moated manor, or a deserted medieval village next door, or 500 yards from an ancient abbey or a priory, or whatever it might be. Everybody looks at the tasty, low-hanging fruit when it comes to farms. However, you think about it logically, most of these farms have been targeted by detectorists for a number of years. So the chances of you rocking up to the door, knocking on the door, and the farmer saying, "Wow, we've never had a detectorist here before," of course you can. In fact, you can go on all these tasty fields here at your own leisure. It's not going to happen, folks, unless you're extremely lucky. So what I always say to people is this: start off as small as you possibly can. So you can look behind me. This little paddock field here is probably about an acre, maybe an acre and a half, this particular patch. Start looking at the small farms, the small holdings, the horse paddocks, the small parcels of land that have probably been neglected and not touched over the years. And the reason why I say this is for two reasons. You can build off the back of a small farm, small holding, paddocks, that sort of thing, and you can use these as references to target larger farms in the future. So if, I don't know, Doris with the horses say, "Yes, I've got 3 acres here," you can detect, no one's ever been on, grab the opportunity with both hands as fast as you can and detect it, because these small little paddock fields do hold some really smart finds. For example, this one I'm sat on here, I've had King Charles shillings off this acre and a half patch. I've had Queen Victoria shillings, I've had sixpences, I've had numerous artifacts dating back to medieval period, all off this small patch. So size isn't necessarily the best when it comes to detecting. So target the small ones first and then work outwards. Look at the small farms, the ones out the road, the ones that people have probably neglected and ignored, and you're much likely to get permission. Also, permission-wise, you may have friends in the family or family members that know people with small paddocks, small farms, small acreage. Ask them to put a word in for you, get you introduced to these people, get that trust going right from the start, and believe me, you'll be having, I don't know, you maybe have 4 or 5 of these before the year's out. It's well worth targeting them sort of things. Big farms can be quite daunting. I've always found going to the large estates and the large farms of 500 acres or more, it's very, very difficult to get permission. Now, I can usually charm the birds from the trees when it comes to permission. I have no problem in getting permission most of the time. But even me, on some of these large farms and estates, have got absolutely no chance of getting on. They've already got somebody coming on. They've been asked 20 times in the last 2 years. They're sick and tired of detectorists knocking. So it can be difficult to get on. So go small and work outwards, and use the small farms and the small holdings and the horse paddocks as a reference. Get the farmers and the landowners to give you a little reference, a glowing reference that you can take to the next farm and say, "Listen, I'm on so-and-so's, which is 3 miles away. I found this, this and this." you're much likely to get the trust going straight away. And again, it's all about trust. Detecting and permission is about trust. So if you go up to a farm, whoa, he says, when the wind is blowing my gimbal, folks. Lucky I've got a bit of reflex left in my old body. If, he says, oh, there you go, right. If, I'll grab hold of it. If you do decide to target one of the big farms, this is the rule of thumb. This is the way I would tackle it. If you put the courage up to go and knock on a door, because it can be quite daunting going up to a farm for the first time and door knocking. You know, you're knocking on the door, you don't know what to expect, you don't know who's going to be behind that door. You don't necessarily know who's going to answer it. Look presentable. Don't go in your cheap, dirty gear, right? One look at somebody, you know, rocking up at the doorstep with a load of dirty detecting gear on isn't going to give the right impressions off. So go looking a little bit presentable if you can, without sounding patronising. Smarten yourself up a little bit and just ask the landowner this. I'm a detectorist. I'd like to uncover the history of your farm. Would you be interested in giving me one field, not hundreds of acres, one field to detect of your choice that I might just be able to pick up a little bit of history of your farm, on your farm. Now, straight away the people think, oh, well, he's not being greedy. He's not asking for all the permission all over the place. We've got a couple of fields at the back of the farm. He's not going to do any harm. Let's see what he brings up. You spend the best part of a day on that particular field that farmer's chose, and you find, I don't know, 6 or 7 coins, for example, of all, you know, grades. They could be worn out Georgian coppers, they could be Victorian pennies, they could be anything. But if you go back to the farm at the end of the day and show him the bits of buckles, the buttons and the coins that you found and offer them to the farmer, because at the end of the day he owns them because it's his land anyway, you're much likely to build up that trust, and that farmer's going to turn around and say, you know what, he was all right, we found a few coins. You know what, you can come back next week and you can try these fields in front of the house. And that's the way in. Now, you can use that on the small farms, you can use that on the medium farms, you can pretty much use that on all the farms. But its rule of thumb is to go, get that dialogue going, look presentable. It's much better than picking the phone up and saying, hello, you know, can I speak to the farmer, please? The farmer's on the other end of the phone, they're not seeing you face to face. They're much more likely to say, no, I've got somebody coming on, thanks very much. They don't want pestering over the phone. Equally, emails, sometimes they may work. A farmer may get back in touch with you. What's the chances of a farmer actually replying to you by email and saying, yeah, you know what, you can come on this 1,000-acre estate, not a problem. For some people it'll work, and you'll probably get people commenting on this thread saying, yes, of course it did it for me. You're much better going face to face. It can be quite daunting. If you're not a people person and you can be quite shy, it can be daunting. But there's 2 things that they can say, yes or no. So don't be too, you know, they're not going to bite your head off. You know, you be sort of polite and nice and presentable. Chances are, eventually, you'll get on a really nice piece of land. So one field only, ask about the history of the farm. At the end of the day, that's what you want to do anyway. You want to find the history of these people's farms. That's how I got most of my permission. That farmers are interested in their history around their farm, and there's no better people to do it than detectorists. So show them everything you find at the end of the day, because they own it anyway, which is the right thing to do, of course. You already know that. Tell them that you've got insurance as well, public liability insurance. So if anything does go wrong, you're covered. Just nice and easy. I remember people going to farm doors, absolutely caked up in mud, smoking a cigarette, throwing the cigarette down when they're talking. The farmer's not going to have that. The farmer's not going to want people smoking around the farms and throwing the stump ends on the floor, absolutely caked up in mud. Just go nice and presentable, and you'll get on. Eventually, you'll get on. Now, this is obviously part 1. Part 2 will be coming very soon, and that's going to be showing through some techniques and the do's and don'ts actually when you get on particular fields. Now, I hope this helps. Please leave a comment or 2. It's been quite a long film, but I hope you've got something out of it, and I'll see you all on the next one.